वहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
पुनरपि जननं पुनरपि मरणं पुनरपि जननी जठरे शयनम्। इह संसारे बहुदुस्तारे कृपया पारे पाहि मुरारे। प्रत्याचर्पटविरचितग्रन्थः पुण्या पुण्यविवर्जितपन्थः। योगी योगनियोजितचित्तो रमते बालोन्मत्तवदेव। कस्त्वं कोऽहं कुतायातः कामे जननी को मे तातः। इति परिभावय सर्वमसारं विश्वं त्यक्त्वा स्वप्नविचारम्। त्वयि मयि चान्यत्रैको विष्णुः व्यर्थं कुप्यसि मय्यसहिष्णुः। भवसमचित्तः सर्वत्र त्वं वाञ्छस्य चिराद्यदि विष्णु त्वम्। शत्रौ मित्रे पुत्रे बन्धौ मा कुरु यत्नं विग्रहसन्धौ। सर्वस्मिन्नपि पश्यात्मानं सर्वत्रोत्सृज भेदाज्ञानम्। कामं क्रोधं लोभं मोहं त्यक्त्वात्मानं पश्यति सोऽहम्। आत्मज्ञानविहीना मूढा ते पच्यन्ते नरकनिगूढः। येयं गीता नाम सहस्रं ध्येयं श्रीपतिरूपमजस्रम्। ज्ञेयं सज्जनसङ्गे चित्तं देयं दीनजनाय च वित्तम्। सुखतः क्रियते रामा भोगः पश्चादन्तशरीरे रोगः। यद्यपि लोके मरणं शरणं तदपि न मुञ्चति पापाचरणम्। अर्थमनर्थं भावय नित्यं नास्ति ततः सुखलेशः सत्यम्। पुत्रादपि धनभाजां भीतिः सर्वत्रैषा विहिता रीतिः। प्राणायामं प्रत्याहारं नित्यानित्यविवेकविचारम्। जाप्यसमेतसमाधिविधानं पूर्ववधानं महदवधानम्। गुरुचरणाम्बुजनिर्भरभक्तः संसारादचिराद्भवमुक्तः। सेन्द्रियमानसनियमादेवं द्रक्ष्यसि निजहृदयस्थं देवम्।
Bhagavad Gita and Sahasranama should be chanted. Form of the Lord of Lakshmi always meditated upon. The mind associated with the good and wealth given to the needy. We said that this verse talks about the Bahiranga Sadhana, or the sadhana that is practiced at the outside level, extroverted level. Like all indications in various places in Bhagavad Gita and other places, this also indicates the comprehensive sadhana. Karma, bhakti and jnana are indicated. Of course, karma not directly, but we can associate the satsanga as a discipline for the body, which also involves karma. We will come back to that. Here, what is given us, Gita and Sahasranama should be sung, gayam. So, what it means is, when we are able to even connect to the scriptures, even at the memorizing level, singing level, that itself definitely has an effect. But also, wherever possible, Gita, Sahasranama or any other scripture for that matter, in the modern context you can even take Vedanta treatise, a little bit of study and reflection in the morning constitutes what is known as the Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga is for the intellect. At the present state that most of us are, we need to do a lot of Karma Yoga, but it is better to dedicate the early hours of the morning, at least half an hour, for self-purification in the form of intake of knowledge. This is representative of the Jnana Yoga here. And we said Gita and Sahasranama can be taken literally or representative of any other text also. Both are part of Mahabharata. Bhagavad Gita is the most comprehensive Vedanta text, which probably talks at the level that we can understand. All the knowledge are the essence of the Upanishads only, and given out by none other than Lord Krishna himself. So Bhagavad Gita is a universal Vedantic text. Vishnu Sahasranama is the conversation between Bhishma and Yudhishthira after the war, when Bhishma is lying on the bed of arrows. For a few days daily, Yudhishthira, his brothers, Krishna and all other rishis who are there, they come daily to Bhishma and have a conversation, and there is a lot of message that he gives. In Mahabharata, the Shanti Parva and Anushasana Parva are the biggest chapters, biggest books. Mahabharata has 18 chapters. As far as we are concerned, the story ends with the war. And then Yudhishthira's coronation is the culmination. That's where the story ends. But the bulk portion of the text, a lot of verses are there describing the war, the weapons and the army and the formation and the Yuddha Niti. Various things are described throughout the war. That is why all the Parva majorly are named after each of the Kaurava commander-in-chief. You have the Bhishma Parva. Bhishma Parva is where Gita is given. Then the Drona Parva, Karna Parva, Shalya Parva, like that it comes. And then after the Shauptika Parva and Stri Parva. Shauptika Parva is the Shushupti. That's in the midnight what happens. Ashwatthama creates a havoc and kills everybody. And then there is a Parva describing the status of women. And then it's called as the Shanti Parva. It is all coming to a complete peaceful state. Anushasana. Anushasana is again giving instructions. So in Shanti Parva and Anushasana Parva are the fruits of Mahabharata, as it were. If you, each and everything grows, and finally where the fruit comes is these two Parvas. So Bhishma answers all the questions of Yudhishthira, and this is the portion which contains knowledge with reference to all aspects of the world, all aspects of dharma, about politics, about warfare, about governance, name anything. And each and everything is given in the form of a very simple stories, examples, direct advices. The conversation is between Yudhishthira, who is the avatar of Dharma himself, and Bhishmacharya, who is the master of all Dharma and Yoga, in the presence of Lord Krishna, who is the avatar of the embodiment of Swayam Narayana himself, and all the rishis that are there. Therefore, in that situation, what was given is of immense value. And till the time that Bhishma leaves his breath, he has been giving lot of instructions, lot of advices. That is why probably it is said what is not in Mahabharata is not found anywhere else. That sort of a thing. Even today, when we talk about the Aesop fables, which give moral instructions for the children, which probably has precedence in Jataka tales and Panchatantra, all that has precedence here only in Mahabharata. Stories with animals as characters and giving important messages, friendship, various other things that are given there. In that, finally, Yudhishthira is asking about the what is the greatest dharma, who is the greatest soul. By remembering whom can we cross over everything, and that is the time when Bhishma gives this Vishnu Sahasranama. It is 1,000 names of Lord Vishnu, and mere chanting of that Vishnu Sahasranama itself is of immense benefit. The famous rendition of M.S. Subbulakshmi is there throughout everybody's house and every temple. It will be there. It's interesting. If you buy that CD of M.S. Subbulakshmi's Vishnu Sahasranama, before that Bhaja Govindam is rendered by her in the Carnatic tune. Not all verses, maybe 6-7 verses. Before that, a 2-minute talk about Bhakti and Jnana by Rajaji is there. Very interesting. You can buy that and listen. And Vishnu Sahasranama is a comprehensive 1,000 names of Lord Vishnu. Adi Shankaracharya's first commentary was on Vishnu Sahasranama. It's very interesting. So he has been an Advaita master throughout, and he has interpreted everything from the Advaitic point of view. But interestingly, he has taken up the Lord's name and then commented upon it first. So there are several names. Many various names indicate about the Nirguna Brahman, that Tattva. Various names indicate about the Saguna Brahman, which is the Ishvara. Various names indicate about the avatars, about Rama, Krishna and other thing also. So there are 1,000. There are other Sahasranamas also. Very famous is Lalita Sahasranama. It comes in Brahmanda Purana. Shiva Sahasranama is also that, probably not that famous as Vishnu Sahasranama, but it is there. It is all pointing out to the same reality, nothing else. So it can be anything for that matter. Vishnu Sahasranama is very popular. That's about all. So there also, if you take up any one name and contemplate upon it, that leads you to the same truth. Vishwam, Vishnu, these are the first two names. That covers the entire thing. Vishwam, Vishnu. Vishwam is the entire manifest universe. Vishnu is the entire unmanifest reality. That's about all. All other names are contained in these two, Vishwam and Vishnu. Lastly, Parvati asks Shiva in Vishnu Sahasranama, 1,000 names seems to be, she is asking with great compassion towards us who are all going to be part of this Kali Yuga. She says 1,000 names itself seems to be very big and long. If people cannot chant it daily, if you chant it will be 20 minutes. That's about all. Nothing more than that. 20-25 minutes. That's all. What to do if, is there any short way also to do this? So to which Ishvara says, Shiva says, Sri Rama Rama Rameti Rame Rame Manorame Sahasranama Tattulyam Rama Nama Varane. Okay, tell only Rama Rama Rama, that's enough. That is equivalent to Sahasranama Tattulyam. 1,000 names are equivalent to Rama Rama Rama. So that is the power that they are giving for the name of the Lord in Kali Yuga. That we have to understand. It should not be cheapened. It should not be taken as for granted. It should be understood that they have, out of compassion, given it in a very simplified form. At least this you do. Then it will lead you slowly to the higher levels of sadhana. As far as the students of Vedanta we are concerned, whatever we can take up early in the morning and reflect upon the truths that is given, that is going to do a lot of churning inside. So that indicates the intellectual sadhana. But mere intellection without devotion will not do proper sadhana. It will not do good for us. So, Dhyayam Shripati Rupamajasram. Meditate upon the Lord of Lakshmi in your heart, which is Vishnu again. It is interesting that he says Shripati also. There is always this habit or the tradition of worshipping the reality as pair as far as Hinduism is concerned. Shiva and Parvati together, Lakshmi and Vishnu together, Saraswati and Brahma together, always. It is an inseparable combination of the Purusha Prakriti from there. It is so it can be any form again, any form that represents the reality. Here he has given us the form of Vishnu. Neyam Sajjana Sange Chittam. Take your thought closer to Satsanga always. Now, how does that happen? Okay, nowadays we can say Satsang at all levels. We can even use technology to this extent that when you have a CD, when you have everything stored in your mobile, which has a lot of negative impact also on us, you can use it positively, the technology. The YouTube that we have, millions and millions of videos that are there. But if you are able to properly use it, you can. So within your room, you can create a satsang. Even a lecture in a CD form or a pen drive form, everything is that way satsang. But there is no substitute for actually associating with people. There is no substitute for actually going to the feet of the Guru and learning. Though we may have all the facilities and amenities now, Tad Vijnanatam Sagurume Vabi Gachet Samit Pani Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam, says the Upanishad. May he reach he is going to say in the last verse of Bhagavad Gita also, at the lotus feet of the Guru that you go and learn. And when you are associating with the right kind of people and right kind of atmosphere, what happens is that the progress is more faster. You can do it by your own, all by yourself. But in a conducive atmosphere, the vibrations are positive. It is like a tailwind that helps the aeroplane move faster. So if our intellect is very well established, even not at the level of Sthita Prajna, even short of it, if you are well established, you can be put in any circumstance and nothing will happen. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa's, one of the gurus, or one of the guides, you can say, whatever you want to call him, Totapuri Maharaj, he must be an enlightened soul. No, nothing short of it. Yet he used to do meditation and other sadhana. What is it that he need to achieve by sadhana? But he used to do. So Paramahamsa asked him, why you must do this? See, even if it is a gold vessel, unless you keep it polishing, it will get oxidated. So it is not that he needs to achieve anything, the Paripurna state is achieved, yet they will continue to do so. Okay. So like that, if it is the state of Totapuri Maharaj, I mean, where are we? So we need to associate ourselves with satsang on a regular basis just to keep the polishing of the thoughts on a continual basis. The influence of the world is powerful. It is powerful. He's going to elaborate in the next verse about that in a way. So it is better to maintain that satsang. Satsang is maintained at all levels. The good food that you eat, good books that you read, good music that you listen, and obviously the good people you associate with. However terrible the age can be, you can call it Kali Yuga or something, always there has been a company of good people available. It is for you to desperately look for it. It will be automatically there. Like in the hard terrain of the desert also, there is always a oasis somewhere there. There will be some trees that will be there. So a person, when he desperately looks for, he will find it. That is how it is, nature has created. And the challenge is to do it in this yuga. Therefore, they have kept such. That is why you will find the avatara of Lord, as in Rama or Krishna, are there more in the previous yugas. If it is this Kali Yuga, there the avatara must be more frequent and more often. Why doesn't happen? It is actually that many great sages and saints, and they have been coming at very frequent and regular intervals. So they create and maintain the satsang, all corners of this country, in all languages, to all sets of people, in all caste, in all backgrounds, in everywhere, rich, poor, everything for that matter. So they have sort of created a net by which we cannot escape. Yeah, even then, if you escape, that's your specialty. That's all. So, but there has been a tradition, temples and satsang and temple, whatever stories, bhajan, kirtan, some form or the other, some classes or the other. That will be always there. That is that is our fortune, we must say. So let the mind be always. Means let the body movement be always there. For which I would say karma will help. When you are undertaking the right type of action also, you will find yourself automatically drawn towards the right type of people. So neyam sajjana sange chittam can be taken as the sadhana at the physical level. When you do all these things, obviously there will be a accumulation of fruits of your action in terms of wealth that will be there. Even otherwise, whatever wealth you have, that should be always shared with the needy. This is being charitable. Of course, it can be literally taken as the charity of the material wealth, but charitable disposition is at all levels of the personality. You are wanting to share and wanting to give must be reflected in anything for that matter. Even suppose if a person doesn't have a vehicle, you give a lift to him. That's a helping. That's all it is. That attitude, Swamiji always insists on this, opening the door and saying after you. That's Karma Yoga. That's all it is. You come first. Your happiness lies in making others happy. That sort of attitude where you can share. You must, in fact, we must rise to the higher levels of charity, which is to give emotions to others, which is to give knowledge to others. Then to give oneself up. That is the highest level of charity. All that is there, but it starts with material wealth. The easiest thing that we can do is, at least Swamiji says, part with something that you don't want. You are doing yourself a lot of good, actually. We tend to, that human tendency is to accumulate. So there are enough persons, and when people talk about Kali Yuga, actually this can be practiced as a best sadhana, because Kali Yuga gives you an opportunity to be unselfish. When everybody is unselfish, nobody will accept, right? Now everybody is ready to accept. So why don't you give? You have an opportunity. So to the needy, of course, I'm not against oversimplifying Dhanam, but that attitude to give must be always there. The verse that we chanted now in Bhagavad Gita, last verse, Datavyam. Datavyam means what ought to be given. Iti yaddanam diyate anupakarine. That which is to be given without expecting anything in return. To one who does no service, that's what it literally means. What it means it's a social cause, it's an obligation for you to give, you must give. That's about all. It could be for a person who has to meet his requirement, needs. It could be for a cause that is inspiring for you, for a hospital, for a Vedic Patashala, for a slum rehabilitation, for underprivileged children, anything. Who needs, wherever, in whatever form it needs. See, a rich person may not need money, but suppose if his car is stuck somewhere, he needs a push there. That is the help that he needs. So you can't say that I will serve only the poor. Wherever, whatever is needy, that ought to be given. So that charitable disposition is a attitude at the mental level. Whenever you meet any other person, the attitude is what you can do for that person. That is called as a charitable disposition. And at the intellectual level, Swamiji coined the word rational sufferance. Just allowing others to be that they are highest form of charity. Most difficult form of charity. If everybody's mental character is in such a way that you want the world to fit into your mental pattern, even though you may be charitably disposed and you want to do it, but this resistance will be there always. To practice that objectivity is a great form of charity, and then do whatever you ought to do, obviously. But here it is said, whatever is the product of your sadhana, just have that attitude to share with whoever is needy. As a practice, we can say, even if you are the poorest person, you have to set aside some amount for charity, be it even 1 rupee or 100 rupees, doesn't matter. Even if you are even if you are the richest person, you have to do some shrama karma, which is activity at the physical level. It is not that rich people all will donate, poor people will all do physical work. It doesn't work like that. Everybody has to do everything. Little more here, little less here. That's about all. But all have to do the sadhana at all levels. This aspect of setting aside a portion of your wealth and giving it for charity must be inculcated right from childhood. It is, as I said, a social obligation. To take care of your family is an obligation. To take care of others around you is an obligation. To save is your obligation. All this is also part and parcel of a householder's obligation. Similarly, to give charity is an obligation. In other religions, we see it is simplified and given, that you have to give 10% of your income, and it is simplified for them. In a way, I would say it's okay. But our Shastras don't prescribe anything like that, but it makes you aware and then do it from within. It is a social, Swamiji says, a social consciousness. It is not just social service. It's a social consciousness that needs to be awakened. So, this sort of gives the complete sadhana. Once you finish all these things, you are prepared for Antaranga sadhana, which is inward sadhana. That is given in verse 30. Before that, 2 verses, he summarizes the purport of Bhaja Govindam, then he gives the final piece of advice. We'll chant verse 28.
सुखतः क्रियते रामा भोगः पश्चादन्त शरीरे रोगः यद्यपि लोके मरणं शरणं तदपि न मुञ्चति पापाचरणम् सुखतः क्रियते रामा भोगः पश्चादन्त शरीरे रोगः यद्यपि लोके मरणं शरणं तदपि न मुञ्चति पापाचरणम्.
One happily takes to carnal pleasure. Alas, later on the body becomes diseased. Although death is the end in the world, even then one does not leave his sinful ways. The last 4 verses, 28, 29, 30, 31, you can say that the Guru is giving his advice, summarizing the whole purport. One of the main themes of Bhaja Govindam is Kanchana and Kamini, which is acquisition and enjoyment. Kanchana means gold, means wealth, refers to acquisition. Kamini means woman, means representative of enjoyment, acquisition and enjoyment. This is one of the themes which comes in the beginning also, which comes in the middle and here now in the end also. So you can say it's one of the main themes of practical Vedanta here. Verse 28 talks about pleasure, enjoyment. Verse 29 talks about wealth. When you transcend these two, acquisition and enjoyment, you plunge into the sadhana, which is introverted sadhana, which is given in verse 30. And then verse 31 culminates in the importance of Guru's guidance and self-realization, how one reaches the state of self-realization. This is the culmination. So in the topics that are divided, first verse is the chorus. Next 12 verses is the bouquet of 12 flowers. 2 to 13. 14 to 27 is the bouquet of 14 flowers. And then fourth topic is this Guru's advice in the end. This verse has the potential to be misunderstood also. Okay. Literally, if any person were to read this verse, think about this. One happily takes to carnal pleasures, alas, later the body becomes diseased. This is understood easily. These verses don't need much explanation, but this is understood. Although death is the end in the world, even then one does not leave his sinful ways. Suppose if somebody were to say, anyway, I'm going to die. Why not indulge in the sensual pleasures in the time that I have been allotted? It seems, I mean, I am saying not any particular skeptic or somebody will argue like that. It has that way I said it has the potential, but that is not the purport of the verse. We'll see. It is very, very easy to get into the carnal pleasures. The five senses that have been driving us are very powerful by themselves. They are indicated as the five horses of the chariot, and each horse is powerful. If they are not in control, each horse will go in every direction, and then the chariot is going to collapse. The rider is going to die. So the senses are like that, and in all the fall of the human personality, we are doing the chapter 2 of Gita. There the famous portion of ladder of fall comes, where how step by step emotions lead you to disaster. Before that he says it is the senses that pull the mind, and then the mind pulls the intellect. So all the spiritual sadhana starts with self-control. Senses don't, that is the symbolism of even one of the symbolism that we saw about the Pandavas losing themselves first. The five Pandavas, in a way, if they can be representative of the five senses, are yoked to one mind, which is Draupadi. When they lose themselves, they pull Draupadi along. So like that it is. So senses are the what you call it. The sense control needs to be first concentrated upon. Even in Ashtanga Yoga and other things, they talk about Yama, Niyama first. People talk about Pranayama and other practices, but very important is to have a full control over oneself. And Indriya Nigraha is a very important aspect of it. Asteyam, I mean, not coveting others' wealth. Having absolute self-control. All these are basic and preliminary practices before which you can indulge in perfection of asanas and perfection of prana and perfection of various other, you go inward like that. So one has to understand the power of senses, but it is very, very tempting. There is a female disease and there is a male disease. It is the female that attracts the male. Okay, now there is a weakness inside us, and then there is a temptation outside. The temptations attract us. The moment the temptations are there in front of us, the senses tend to lose themselves. Our power is gone to control them, indicative of Vali's power of taking half the strength from his opponents. So that is why you need to hide behind and shoot, in a way that you cannot confront them directly. But in this verse he is saying it is so easy to get into it. It is so easy, it is so tempting, gives us the instant pleasure. That is where you have to connect the second line. The second line is Yadyapi loke maranam sharanam. Even though death is the end of all pursuits, even then man does not leave his sinful ways. Okay, what it means is that death is the final end. We may understand it intellectually, but the mind refuses to believe, or we don't entertain the thought at all. We just don't entertain the thought because of course Vedanta gives the reason that you are immortal. Immortality is your nature. Therefore, each and every activity that we do in the world is just in the idea that we need to prolong our happiness. And that happiness that we are seeking is not a finite happiness. Actually, we are seeking infinite happiness. That is again our potential is infinite. But it requires some knowledge for us to understand that even true happiness in the world is not an instant happiness. It won't come instantly. So sattvic pleasure, we discussed in the last class that it starts as a poison. It starts very difficult for you. You have to go through the a little bit initial pain of it before you get a relish of it, before you enjoy it and get the benefit of it. That is why again and again we say sattvic pleasure is born out of clarity of one's intellect. Unless otherwise a person is having some awareness, some knowledge, he is not going to consciously pursue sattvic pleasure. Some may pursue walking and other exercises when it is forced upon them by a doctor or the situation. It is not that they are enjoying it, but they will do for the sake of maintaining their body. They have to do it, they are forced to do. But here we are talking about something which you enjoy, and that enjoyment comes out of the clarity of one's intellect only. So sattvic pleasure is that which is the true happiness. But a person easily takes to the carnal pleasures because it gives him instant happiness. When he is bereft of this knowledge, he will see and interpret what happiness he gets instantly. He is not even able to decipher that even after a few contacts, he is not able to derive the same pleasure out of it, yet by which time he becomes habituated to it. That is why he mentions in this verse as papa charanam, sinful. In our literal Sanatana Dharma, we don't say any activity or any pleasure per se as sinful. What it means is, this type of a pursuit ultimately leads you to your mental agitation. A person who is pursuing this carnal pleasure ultimately is not relishing that pleasure, rather he is going through agitation. So from his own standpoint, he himself regrets, he himself says, I should not have done, yet he is not knowing what else to do. The mind gets habituated, the senses get habituated, so he is going through that carnal pleasures as a motion that he goes through. Yet he is not able to leave it. Even, see, he says, Sukata kriyate. Sukata means very easily one takes to it. Sukata kriyate rama bhogaha. All these carnal pleasures you very easily take to it. Paschat anta. Anta means alas. Anta is a usual term in Sanskrit. It can be an exclamation in any form. Usually alas, oh pity. Anta. Sharire rogaha. Any sensual pleasures which is part of your body ultimately brings disease and excessive watching of mobile and that screen. They say it affects the eyes, though you may say there's no scientific paper and all now, but one can experience it. Any excessive indulgence in food, it affects the system within your body. It can be that you are a vegetarian, that you are eating nice, even sattvic food, but you eat excessively. What happens? Shankaracharya, from his standpoint, may not have even conceived the other forms of carnal pleasures that people may go through. Excess of anything itself is like that. Excess of sightseeing or excess of music, always something plugged into your ear and you are listening. Excess of anything for that matter, it results in disease of the body. It results in neutralization as far as the mind is concerned. You become addict. You lose the pleasure, you are addicted to it, and you have to force yourself to contact it without any pleasure. All these things is what creates the mental agitation. Paschadanta sharire rogaha. Even if a person argues and says this world is meant for enjoyment and the time is a short time that we need to, make use of. Birth is the beginning and death is the end. I need to enjoy. Even for him, there has to be a very disciplined and measured contact. That has to be there. So, a sense control and a self-discipline is even required for a person who wants to make enjoyment as his aim of life. And if he wants to maintain the enjoyment, right? Paschadanta sharire rogaha. People are not very prone to doing positive actions like sowing a seed which is going to give fruit for the later period. But people's mind instantly wants the results of positive action. Whatever is the fruit of positive action, that we want, but we are not ready to put in the hard effort that is required for it. The opposite is for the negative action. We readily take to negative thoughts, negative actions, because it gives an instant kick, it gives an instant pleasure. But we are not ready to take the fruits of when disease comes, when some other thing visits us, that we are not able to accept or take it. So this is what, if the things were as simple as beginning also pleasure, end also pleasure, Beginning also pain, end also pain. There's no problem at all for human life. We don't need a Bhagavad Gita or a guru to tell us what to choose. The problem arises because it is just the opposite. That's a contradiction in life. That we see that what begins as a poison turns out to be nectar. What begins as a nectar turns out to be poison. Therefore, we need education. But have you seen any animal do any of these exercises? They don't do. In the season that is for mating, that they do. In the season when that's hunger, that they eat. When something is wrong with the stomach, a dog does not eat. It knows when to. It's a naturally programmed way. So they don't have any agitation. They don't undergo any agitations or sin or anything like that. It is a man who takes this carnal pleasure and he creates agitation at the mental level. And there is nobody in history who has gone all out, extroverted and led only an indulgent life, and at the end of it all he said, I am satisfied. So that is why he says, Yaddapi loke maranam sharanam. For a person who's just understand, you are not going to be there forever. Sooner or later the body gets disease and then you end up in here. So therefore, there is a very, while doing this verse, Swamiji quoted a great statement of Marcus Aurelius. I do not know if this is the exact quote, but this is the purport. It says, you will give yourself relief if you do every act of your life as if it were the last. This is a hypothetical situation that we do not know when we are going to go, etc. But if assume that you are knowing your departure time and date, and it is for sure, it is not your belief, let's say it's for sure. If you know that, what will you do? Think about it. What will you do? Will you continue to live in the same way that you live, or there will be a change in your attitude? It's very interesting. Duryodhana, who had all along lived a very negative life, his thought has been always jealous. By and large, 99% is like that. 1 or 2 times he might have spoken dharma here and there, because nobody is 100% here, nobody is in that way. But by and large, Duryodhana is like that. So finally he is beaten by Bhima, and then there's outpouring of various words there, where even Devas put flowers on him for the words that he has spoken, that apart. And then Ashwatthama comes and says that make me the commander-in-chief, I still owe you a lot debt. So before he dies, he is still struggling. His life has not yet gone. It's described that even the wolves and hyenas which are there are just waiting. He is shoving them away with his hand like that because they know that sooner another person is going to die. So Ashwatthama takes the commander-in-chief role as ordered by Duryodhana. Duryodhana does not know the full intention of Ashwatthama at that point of time. He only says he wants to fight, and he gives as per the whatever is the continuation of the war. But Ashwatthama does the horrible of horrible deeds to kill everybody when they were sleeping, and it is like it's no terrorist act can even come near that. That of a fact he does. And only the Pandavas, Satyaki and Krishna, they escape. All others are dead. The 5 princes, that is the sons of Pandavas, Drishtadyumna, name anybody, everybody is dead there in the camp. And then finally he comes to Duryodhana. Before he just is in the verge of death, he conveys what he has achieved. It's a very interesting portion. If you have to go through the motions of the emotions and emotions of Ashwatthama at that point of time. It is a very interesting psychology. Intellectually he understands whatever he is doing is not right, but he is so much pushed by the revenge and emotion that he hails from, within quotes, a Brahminical background. Drona is said to be a great among Brahmins, great among warriors. And his son, who knows everything. Like that. Yet, what can happen to such a person, and when such type of emotions take over, is a very interesting character analysis if you read Ashwatthama. And then he finally comes, just before Duryodhana is going to die, he comes and triumphantly says whatever he has done. Duryodhana is not happy at that point of time. He says, for all 100 brothers first put together and 5 Pandavas put together, there was only, they were there as the heritage, and they are going to relieve us of our sins in the other world, in the ancestral world. What you have done is not worthy of it, and you have done it in the most wrong way. This Duryodhana says. It's very interesting at the end of it. So, I mean, what I read as a message there is, in that very dying breath, it is not that the same type of a thought flow will not be there. It will change something for the good, because you are facing the reality. You are actually facing what is the reality. When you are facing the reality, your thoughts will be oriented towards the reality in some form or the other, in whichever degree it can tilt. That's about all. If you are at this level, you may reach up to this level. Somebody may think of family, because all along they might not have thought of family. That itself is a bigger awareness, I would say. If it is done. Now, if it is said, no, not now. You have still 40 more years. Then we will come back to our own ways of living, because the mind will have its tendency, and its that's how the mind functions. So Marcus Aurelius says, do every activity of your life as though this is your last act. That means there is no guarantee when what will happen. Now you are fit. Now your thoughts are, your conscious mind is functioning. Now your limbs are functioning. Make good use of it. Let it not be a regret later. I should have chanted Lord's name then. Or I should have visited that temple then. I should have read Bhagavad Gita at that point of time. Or I should have done karma or started something, whatever your passion is at that point of time. Let there not be a regret at that point of time. So, this verse has to be understood in this angle only. That even though people that's why he doesn't say even though people understand that the death is finality. He says even though the death is finality, they are just unaware of it. They are saying, yes, baad mein dekha jayega. Later we can do all these things. Later we can, and they are automatically drawn into what is known as this carnal pleasure. So he is only cautioning us against excessive indulgence. This is not the aim of life. Aim of life is something else. Along the way, you are given license to enjoy life in a dharmic way, but you cannot make it as the primary aim of life. Yes, sir.
See, even at that stage, Duryodhana asked the head of the Pandavas, 5 Pandavas, and Ashwatthama went and
he did everything except the.
At that time.
It's
at that stage.
So he could not, Duryodhana could not reconcile that the next generation everybody is gone. And his enmity, as you said, was mainly with Pandavas. Yes, sir.
So there is an example normally given that if a man, whatever a man thinks or whatever man does, at the end only that type of thought will come. Like if you're thinking about money during your death or the last minute, you will only think about money. Okay, even if you know that, let's say I'm suffering from cancer or about doctors have given me up and I'm going to die, but the thoughts will not, the Lord's name will not come into your mind. You will keep on thinking about money or whatever you have been doing past throughout your life. Now in case of Duryodhana, whatever scheming and all these things he did during the war, theoretically speaking, he should have got something, a thought of only in those lines should come into his mind. But the fact that a different type of thought is coming, any thoughts or reasoning behind that?
No, I really do not know. But the one thing is, we do not know the full picture also. See, if you look at the characters of Duryodhana, Kamsa, Ravana and all, they are well versed in scriptures. They have learnt everything. It is just that to show how the emotions take over a personality and they take a completely different turn as far as the life is concerned. When Karna was humiliated, he was Radhe at that point of time when he was humiliated in the Sabha where they are showing the skills. That time Duryodhana speaks excessive dharma. I mean, of course, for his self, because he saw somebody who can potentially challenge Pandavas. But words that he speaks are dharma at that point of time. Similarly, there are various places where he talks about governance and other things. So that way he is well versed. But here also, probably his hatred and revenge and that attitude will not go. Again, I am not sure of what exactly was. This is in the very final moments, and then he dies. And the story also is there that he goes to heaven for a while and then he goes to hell. That is all in the story that comes. But the point is, when we say a change of heart or something, here also, if you analyze threadbare as to the thought process, he may think in terms of how am I to be redeemed by the pinda that is given by the generation or something like that. In other words, he is not thinking of Brahman. He is not thinking of a very great this thing which has not been his thought. He says in terms of his own thing. I don't want to paint a selfishness here, but still, I'm just saying we need to analyze as to what that thought process is before coming into conclusion. But that is possible. Even there, that self-preservation in some form or the other, that will be the fine thread that will run through.
But there was a what you call the act itself. There is some amount of selfishness involved in it, because that time he is thinking that when I die, who will be there to give me?
Correct. That's what I'm saying. So it is not different from his thought flow. So I am not saying a very drastic change in his thought flow. I am only corroborating what you said only. Yes, sir.
This verse talks about excessive touch with a material thing will at the body level will lead to disease. At the mental level will lead to agitation. Is there something to do with excessive touch with intellectual, or is it not possible for anyone?
When we say intellect, it is again your mind's pleasure through the equipment of intellect. That's about all. See, when we talk about a person is addicted to, when you play a video game, which type of pleasure it is?
Intellectual.
In a way, it involves your thinking, in a way, but it is nothing that you, when somebody is jumping over the brick and all, it is not a physical pleasure, obviously. That king, that sound is not a sound for ear. That's not all the sensual pleasure. The mind is totally in it, obviously. The mind is somehow addicted to it. But the operation is through the intellect. A person can be, that is why when many of the chess players who are all at the top of their games, there's a biopic on Bobby Fischer. It's interesting. I saw that in television only. One of the, if not the best, one of the best is Bobby Fischer, the great American chess player. Fischer and Spassky's duel is a very famous duel. 1972, it's said to be the game of the century. They played in Reykjavik always, because there was not only a chess game, it was between Soviet Union and America, and therefore all the things will happen in Iceland only, which is the center point between these two. And what amount of psychological battle and mental trauma these players go through. Now, various players have gone through that. That's why when a person gets, because a person, if he loses a cricket match by leaving a catch or something, it will linger for a while. But one move you miss and lose a chess match, it will linger for maybe ages together. That is because and most tiring game. You cannot 6 hours. You have to be constantly at it. 5 to 6 hours is a classical game. So each move, millions of calculations with a computer. What they have to do it mentally and do it. Such chess players, many have gone off track as far as their mental. There are various histories of such people. Now, I'm not talking about addiction here. They are, of course, playing a game. It involves preparation. That is why a lot of relaxation, yoga, meditation, all those things are required for chess players. And Vishwanathan Anand used to say that jogging and yoga is part and very much necessary exercise. You can't say where are they running. It's not like football or cricket, but it's very much required. Now, If a person is addicted to something, it could be crossword, it could be chess or anything, but here the point is the mind is addicted to it. The equipment that you use is intellect. Therefore, it will cause some neuro problem. It will cause when I'm wanting to fit it into the disease thing here, it will happen. So if a person is not, so to say that keep your mind equanimous in victory and defeat, it applies in tennis, it applies in every game. In chess, it's much difficult when person is particularly at his peak. Once, I do not know who, he was the number one and he somehow lost a game against a low ranked player. He just couldn't control himself. He jumped on the table and said, how can I lose to this idiot? He started shouting like that. But that's how it is. It psychologically functions in them. And I am not painting all the chess players in one brush. But it is possible that at the intellect's level also, that the equipment that you use is intellect, but there is an addiction which is at the mental level. The key reason you have to understand here is neutralization addiction functions where there is a pleasure seeking attitude in any contact. If you are seeking pleasure through playing chess, if you are seeking pleasure through solving crossword or sudoku or anything, if you are seeking pleasure through, meaning external to me, I have to do it to derive pleasure for my mind, if that is the attitude, you are bound to get into addiction, neutralization, all these things that are given here sooner or later. But it is very clear in terms of sensual contact and sense pleasure, which is directly perceivable, experienceable. But if it could be talking to a friend over phone. There it's an emotional transaction, though sound is involved. It's an emotional transaction. That leads to neutralization. That leads to addiction. That leads to a lot of bickering and quarrel and various other things. Yet, that relationship will continue. That's a point of neutralization at the mental level also. So it applies at all levels. Yes.
So, in this Duryodhana example that you'd given, the fact that he could say that what was done was not right is because we are very external kind of people. What we do, we never realize. What others do, we always realize that is a wrong. So what he was doing all his life, he gave justification and kept doing it. But the minute he heard what was done, he immediately could react to it because his intellect and his basic thing was right. But it's just because of our nature that we can give advice more easily than we can follow it ourselves.
So it's a plausible theory, but the thing is, if you look at Duryodhana's character throughout, he has been overwhelmed with emotions. Here, it is more appropriate to say it is the situation and the condition that he is in that is creating this, that type of thought process. Though, to connect to what we said, at the time of when the life goes away, how and what you will I am talking about a conscious thing. See, various things, a person may be out of control, all the pranas may function in their own way, his consciousness may go. We are not talking about that. If you are conscious enough, what will your thought process be? That will undergo a change because of the situation created as you are facing the reality. There I brought in, may or may not be the case, but that's, I thought, a good example. A very interesting story is given in the Shastras to substantiate the point about possibility of reading this verse in a different way. I do not know where the story is, but it is, even I think Swamiji has said, there is a person who is there in the dark forest and he is chased by a tiger. As he is running along, trying to save his life, he slides and falls into a well. And the well, along the wall of the well, he is sliding and falling. It's a deep well without any water or anything, that type of a well. And he is seeing below, there is a serpent, big snake there waiting for him. So as he is sliding along, he is very desperate. And there are some trees whose roots are there in the side of the wall. He catches hold of root and he is hanging now suddenly. There, the top, that tiger is waiting. And below this serpent is waiting, and he is now hanging in the middle. As he is hanging in the middle, he sees there's a small sound that is coming. That sound is that of a rat. A rat is slowly eating that root. Slowly, that root that he is hanging, the rat is eating that root. He is now very desperate. He doesn't know what to do. And in that process, he is struggling here and there. Nearby, there is a bee hive. He disturbs that hive. So bees surround him. As he is hanging, the bees are also creating a lot of problems. He is going through extreme torture. In that moment, since he disturbed that beehive, one drop of honey that comes and falls in his tongue. He forgets for a moment everything and he tastes that honey. They are saying, this is the sensual pleasure that you enjoy in the world, actually. What is this tiger? The past karma that pushes you. Past karma pushes you into this well of samsara. And your future fruits are awaiting there below. And in that moment you are hanging. This rat is the time factor which is slowly taking away the root. Step by step, it is taking that. And in that samsara also you don't keep quiet. You create your own samsara. Your family and children are the things that you create, whatever your samsara. And you are constantly pressurized by that. When you go through all these things, suddenly somewhere some pleasure comes, and imagine in and through all this, you don't have the totality picture. You are just for that moment, you forget everything. This is the thing. Okay, that moment you enjoy, but be aware of the totality and do what is to be done. Now, when this was said in one of the group discussion, a student asked, the picture that is given in the story gives a very sort of gruesome picture and you may get a very pessimistic thought. But carefully see, in that situation, what else can he do? Just enjoy. Just two drops of honey, enjoy. So that is not the message that we should derive. That is why they have modified the story and given in a very interesting form, that as you are hanging, how does this honey come? There are two parrots that are there in the tree above. A nice juicy mango is there. This parrot is called as Sukha also in Sanskrit. The Sukha is this parrot and Valmiki is the other parrot. Sukha Brahmam and Valmiki are the parrots. They are pecking the fruit of the Shastras and giving it in the form of a juice which is from their mouth. It tastes so well. It is the Bhagavata, it is the Ramayana. Taste that. Start tasting that. Irrespective of whatever samsara you are caught up in, you are sure to be redeemed. Don't worry. This is the positive way in which they have ended the story. So that is how we have to take it. That you are chased, that you are hanging, all that is a given. It's not a big deal. Sooner or later, something or the other. If you don't have a family samsara, some other samsara. If you are not hanging your root is not gone 50%, it's 10%. That's all a matter of degree. That's about all, for all. But when you are here, what you must focus on, yes, you want happiness, but wait for and taste that honey. You taste that which is going to be forever a nectar for you. That is what is given in the Shastras. It is going to be a redemption for you while you are living in the samsara, not to talk of later on. One happily takes to carnal pleasure, alas. Later on the body becomes diseased. Although death is the end in the world, even then one does not leave his sinful ways. We'll conclude with the Bhajan.
Poornam Adah Poornamidam Poornat Poornamudachyate Poornasya Poornamadaya Poornamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.